Coming to Atlanta, like I didn't know anyone. Starting from scratch was like a really daunting, from a $1,700 rental to an $8 million sale.
That's insane.
Crazy. My last year's volume, I almost hit 14 million personally. My team did about 25, I think, or 29 million in volume altogether. It was like 4 a.m. I'd be downing like Red Bulls trying to stay awake, and I ended up passing out. I fell on the floor. Leave it 10 minutes. I need you to get back on there and keep working. And I was like, okay. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. This sounds terrible. Clearly, they don't value me. I would sit on the phone probably for about 3 to 4 hours a day and just call as many leads as possible. I can remember there was one person, it took 45 times to get them on the phone. I got them on the phone, I got their listing, and I sold it.
Today's play on the Atlanta Agent Playbook is consistency. And it comes from Vina, who started super young as a real estate agent, 18 years old, built a business in Miami for over 10 years, then moved to Atlanta and rebuilt it all over again. Super inspirational story. Let's get into it. All right, JC, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad we were finally able to make this happen.
I know, man. I know. It's I appreciate you putting this all together. This is really cool. So I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Well, I want to jump into your background because it's super interesting. But before we head into that, give the audience a little teaser. What does your business look like today? What does your volume look like, your team's volume?
For 2026?
Sure. The past year.
Okay. Yeah. My last year's volume, I almost hit 14 million personally. My team did about 25, I think, or 29 million in volume altogether.
Okay.
Which I'm really excited about. It's a newer team. We've been growing it across the last year and a half, like seriously. We have 13 agents on the team. Well, now we have a few more. I just added some this year. But as of the end of last year, we had 13 agents that we grew to. Some amazing agents out there. A lot of newer agents that were able to find a lot of success and get really creative with gaining new clients and how they're going about things. So I'm really proud of everyone on the team. Great job. Vina team.
That's awesome, man. That's a big team. I'm excited to kind of dig into that. But take us back to the beginning. So a lot of agents, they can't do what you did. Like starting at 18 years old down in Miami, like what brought you into real estate at such a young age?
So before I started real estate, right before I turned 18, I was working at Toys R Us, which, rest in peace, no longer even exist. I was doing holiday hours there, and it was, I knew nothing else. It was my first job, and I was busting my butt. And, I like to think that no matter what I was doing, I would have just worked really hard at it, because even at Toys R Us, like the manager at the time was like, oh, if you work really, really hard, you're going to get a full-time job and you can stay on past holiday hours. I was like, that sounds good. Like I'm making $10 an hour. I want to do that. And so I did. I worked really hard, and we'd be working from literally like 5 p.m. to 7 a.m. the next day doing like reshop and all this crazy stuff. And I remember as we were getting really close to the holiday, or towards like Christmas, might have been right after, one of the days we were doing reshop was like 4 a.m. I'd be downing like Red Bulls trying to stay awake, and I ended up passing out. And I fell on the floor, and like literally the manager comes up to me. I went to the break room, and he's like, hey, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I was like, I don't know what happened. He's like, okay, well, you have 10 minutes. I need you to get back on there and keep working. And I was like, okay. All right.
You don't want to send me home? Like,
yeah,
what?
I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. This sounds terrible. Clearly they don't value me, but I knew nothing else. I was 17 and, or I was maybe just turned 18. My uncle, I remember during Christmas break, I think maybe it was like Christmas Eve, he came to me, and he was like, hey, I got into real estate a little bit ago. Do you want to be my assistant? And he's like, I need help with this, and you can help me out with that. And I said, I mean, yeah, it's can't be worse than working at Toys R Us. And mind you, this was 2000, I'm pretty sure it was 2011.
Okay.
The real estate market was still pretty much in shambles from like everything that went down in 2008. And the recovery took a long time. So I was like, yeah, whatever. I mean, it's got to be better than this. And literally him and I sat in an office together, and I would be on Zillow and Craigslist and just like trying to reach out to as many buyers. And there's so few buyers that actually wanted to do things. There was a ton of interest, but so few buyers that actually wanted to do anything. So, I mean, I think I was this assistant for maybe 4 or 5 months, maybe a little longer. I just got into college, and he's like, I don't think he wanted to pay me anymore. And I do think like he really did want me to succeed in real estate, but he's like, you should get your license.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, awesome. Sounds good. And so I did. And I think I had one rental and eventually one sale. I had no idea what I was doing at the time. Like I think
Yeah.
most agents. And he did a great job of like kind of pushing me and trying to teach me from what he knew. Eventually went to a larger brokerage and I met my mentor. Shout out Corey Schwartz. And he basically helped me kind of stay in the business. There was a few times that I wanted to quit and I was like, this is really hard. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And he kind of kept pushing me forward. He got me into rentals. And down in Miami, you can actually make money on rentals. Like
Yeah.
here in Georgia, I know it's like very kind of all
There's
over
not
the place.
much of a rental market, for agents at least.
It just doesn't make financial sense.
Mhm.
In Miami, it does. You can make, half a month's rent, 5% of a total year's rent. So I started helping him out with his business and we deal with in volume. And so we were right across from University of Miami. He had a few different websites where we'd help out students find off-campus housing. And I think by my second year, I was doing like 50 transactions between April and like August. So it was like 4 months of just hustling your face off.
Yeah.
And I think it was like my first 4 or 5 years in real estate, that's all I knew. It was just doing rentals and doing volume. I think in one of our busiest years, I ended up doing like 110 rentals in that time.
Wow.
Like it was a lot. And obviously it's so much work if you would have applied that towards helping, buyers and sellers. Yeah. So I like to think that like I got a lot of my work ethic from him because I got like a lot of endurance from that.
Mhm.
And obviously shout out my uncle, David Vina. He's amazing. I wouldn't have even started this if it wasn't for him. But those are like my two biggest influences when it came to like my backbone in real estate. Eventually I started a single community website for my neighborhood, which I started farming back in Miami. And, I started trying to emulate a couple like really good realtors that I knew from like social media and stuff and do what they were doing. I started doing cold calling and reaching out to my community and along with the website, along with doing like weekly email blasts to my neighborhood. I was able to take that neighborhood over. There was an agent there that was doing, I think like 90% of the business.
Yeah.
By the time I sold my own property in that neighborhood, I think I had like, I want to say 80% of the business on lock there. And it was great. That was the last place I lived before we moved up to Georgia. And that was, a huge leap.
Yeah.
My wife and I have been talking about it since, basically we were 18 about moving. Your business is who you know. And coming to Atlanta, like I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
I think we have like a couple family members here. That's it. And so starting from scratch was like a really daunting thing. And there were so many times during the process of us like looking for houses up here that we'd be at like dinner and I'd be like, I don't think we're gonna do this. And I remember she was so mad because we'd already gotten like so far into it. And she's like, no, like that's crazy. We're not gonna stop now. And so, obviously I'm here. It eventually happened. But I remember I was about 2 weeks out from actually moving up here. I still didn't know what brokerage I was gonna go with. I'd called a bunch and I had put my stuff out on like Indeed, and I got a call from Method where I'm at now, and I was talking to the recruiter who eventually put me in touch with Andrew Leffler, who's now the operating broker at Method, and he kind of just gave me a quick run through of what Method offers, and I didn't even really care about the stuff that I think now matters the most and helped me get to where I am in my business. I heard we give leads and I was like, okay, all right, I'm there. Like,
I'll take it.
Yeah. My idea prior to that was I was going to do what I did in Miami, which is like call like 200 people a day and hope that, out of those 200, I could maybe, make 10% of them work.
Yeah.
With the leads they provided, they're kind of like warm leads. So I was able to call a quarter, they're like half of that or even less and convert a lot more of those. So that was one of the biggest things is it solved the problem of like, I don't know anyone.
Yeah.
And I literally, my first 2 years here in Atlanta, I would sit on the phone probably for about 3 to 4 hours a day and just call as many leads as possible. And I would just continue to call. And we have like a SOP, standard operating procedure. where you have to call 7 times minimum to get these people on the phone. And I'm like, well, I'm going to call 7 times minimum. If I can't get them on the phone, I'm going to call 14 times. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't matter how many times I need to call people. And I literally, I can remember there was one person, it took 45 times to get them on the phone. I got them on the phone, I got their listing, and I sold it. And I realized there's no reason not to call. There's no reason to stop doing that. And I think once I got that mentality, it's one of the things that helped me succeed the most here. One thing that our brokerage method offers is we kind of have this Slack channel where every agent has their own channel, and on there we have 12 employees that help with kind of everything on the back end, writing contracts, kind of helping with our marketing and all that, and managing contracts. And so it helped me focus specifically on the outreach and like going out and meeting people and talking to people and delegating all that work. And it took a little bit of time to like learn to do that. But once I started delegating that work, it helped me increase my business. And I think in my first year here, I want to say like 25% of my best year in Miami. And since then I've continued to increase that number. I think it was like, my second year was like, I think it was like 7.2. Then the next year was like 9.1. And then this year was almost 14.
Dang. That sounds like such a hustle. And like that journey from moving to Miami, having to restart, sounds like your mentors set you up really well. Absolutely. And then method as well, just being able to kind of help you shortcut, give you some warm leads and provide some of those processes. I want to like go back to the beginning. You mentioned you started with leasing.
Yes.
Do you think, like, talking to some agents out there that might be around that age, maybe not even 20 yet, like, what would you recommend going down that route or jumping right into sales?
Yeah. I mean, I think leasing and in the words of my mentor, Corey, rentals, specifically in Miami, rentals pay the bills, but they also are a great way to start understanding the process of real estate, to start understanding contracts, to start understanding your duty to your clients. And it definitely creates, it helps you get warm to that. The other part of it is, and then the major part that he focused on, and I, started seeing the value later on, is rentals. Renters become buyers, become sellers. So it's an amazing gateway to start that process. And, these are students that, would rent for 4 years, whatever it might be, but then a lot of them would stick around Miami and then they'd call me to buy a property. And then, they would call me to sell that property. And, I'm lucky enough that I still maintain business down there. So I'm able to, continue to help them. Yeah. I have an agent down there, David Blumenfeld, that is just, I'm like really picky with who I want to like refer business to and like work with. Sure. And me and him like work hand in hand. And sometimes I fly down there, but for the most part, I can trust him like with everything that I hand off to him. So yeah, I mean, I 100% would say in the right market, it makes a lot of sense. Right. It's a really tough one here in Atlanta because, like I said, I mean, it's. I'm not saying don't do rentals. I think there's definitely value there, at least to create those connections. And I'll say this the way that Andrew says this. Our current broker, like, when questioning if you should do something or not, it's like, do I have anything else to do right now? Like if you're new to the market, right? And you're like, oh, I've had agents that tell me, it's like, oh, I don't want to do a rental. It's not gonna make me any money. Yeah. Like, well, what else are you doing right now? If you're not doing anything, then go do a rental. Even, unfortunately, even if it's free, sometimes go make that connection. Go work really hard for that client. Invest in your future of your business.
In the beginning, you kind of have to be like a yes man. Like, I'll take anything, get in front of people, like you said, start to have those conversations, and then it's the long-term game. Like, a lot of those clients will end up being buyers or sellers.
100%. And I mean, making those connections and not knowing where those are going to end up and how that can really kind of bloom into something so much bigger. One of my partners down in Miami, Ashley, she started real estate a bit shortly after me, and she was on my team for a long time. She took a $1,700 3-month rental, made no money on it. That same renter called her like a year later, said, hey, can you help me buy a $700,000 house? Cool. After that, they called her and said, hey, by the way, my brother-in-law, he's, I guess, some very successful person down in Miami, wants to sell his I think it was like an $8 million piece of dirt
Mm-hmm.
on the water in Coconut Grove. And
Yeah.
she's like, can you help her? Can you help him sell that? So, I mean, from a $1,700 rental to an $8 million sale.
That's insane.
Crazy. It's crazy. And like, I always use those examples. Like, you don't know what like somebody's going to end up putting in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think like helped you build that trust? Because I think a lot of newer agents that are younger sometimes get intimidated, right? Or maybe the public perceives we already get a bad rap as agents. And then if you throw into the mix that you're a young agent,
Yeah.
like what would you say? How do you build trust with clients that see you as like, you know, oh, this guy's 18 years old?
Yeah. I mean, it was triply hard. I'll show you a picture after this of what I looked like when I first started. But I mean, I still look young for 33, and or I like to think so. But people, when I first started, were like, "How old are you? Like,
Yeah,
are you even
yeah.
old enough to drive?" Like, I looked about 13.
Yeah.
And it was tough, man. It was tough. I do think, obviously, starting with rentals and helping students, where
Right.
there's a closer age gap, helped. I would say for agents doing it now, starting from a place of being young, you do have to lean into that. You do have to lean into, I am young. I am young. And that's why I'm going to do the absolute best job for you, because I have the energy to do so.
Yeah.
You want to go look at 100 properties? I have the endurance to do that. And leaning into whatever support they have. If there's a perception that maybe they're not the most experienced, maybe that's the case, but I have a broker, or I have a team lead, or I have, a mentor, whoever it might be, that is helping me through all this. And you are going to be taken care of very well. So not only do you have all of my energy,
Yeah.
you have the experience behind me as well in this case. So I think leaning into that, and every deal, no matter how long I think you've been in real estate, treating it like it's not transactional, treating it like it's not just for the money, getting invested in your clients. I always make it a point that my clients understand, like, I don't care how many properties we look at. I don't care if you technically buy with me or sell with me. If you feel there's an agent out there that's going to do a better job, there is no cancellations on my listing, on my listing agreements. There's no cancellations on my BBAs. I want you to feel like if I'm not doing the best job, you go find somebody that does.
Yeah.
And I think when you put that out there that way, and that's how I've always operated, it kind of sets up this thing where you're going to work as hard as possible to ensure they're happy. But then they know that you're putting in your best effort. And if they don't feel like it, there's going to be a conversation. There's going to be, you're going to get checked on that. And sometimes our egos need to get checked.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, I think that's the value you bring. Like at every stage of your career, like you just end up evolving to different clients. Like my first agent before I got licensed, I bought my first property here in Atlanta. I probably drove her nuts. It took us like 9 months. I think we toured like 62 homes or something like that. She was super, super patient, and like that made the experience for me. But yeah, some agents, you talk to them, are like, oh, I'm not showing them more than like 4 houses. It's like, what?
That's why the good agents deserve 3% or 6% if you're a listing agent. It's because we put the time in, we put the effort. We will show 100 homes. People sometimes say like, oh, they got paid for nothing, right? It's like, well, maybe you saw 5 homes. Another buyer saw 100, So it's the adding all that up.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's like the average. Sometimes you'll get lucky and it's like the first house is it.
But very rarely.
Rarely,
I find like every so often, like if it's the first house, I'm like, this is probably either going to fall through and we're going to look at 20 other homes, or this is going to be the toughest deal on the planet. It's never just like easy. There's no deal that's just like, all right, done.
Right.
It just falls in your lap. There's always a catch.
100%.
Yeah.
So walk me through the transition. How long were you in Miami until you moved to Atlanta?
So I grew up in Miami, but with my license from the age of, I'd say 18 to I think about 27, 28.
Okay.
Yeah.
So quite a long time. You built a business, you built a sphere. What was the hardest part about like jumping into Atlanta? It sounded like method helped a lot as far as like the lead flow, but like what are some other things that like put you through that time and that transition, like going from, I've got a massive business to now I'm starting over?
I think difficulties would be, and my biggest worries at the time were gaining the trust of people that already lived here for a long time, because obviously coming in, I could make as many calls as I want. If I wasn't familiar with an area, I think it became quickly apparent.
Yeah.
So one of the only other things I was really vocal about to all of the people I was interviewing at the time is like, I don't know Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And that's tough. It's like you're coming to a place where you can have as much experience with negotiating and transacting and all that stuff, and you can keep that.
Yeah.
But to know an area, I mean, the first time I pronounced Decatur, I called it Decatur.
Yeah.
And I could not pronounce Lake Lanier. I was like Lake Lanier, and I said that to clients, and they were like. They look, like I was like, and I think over the phone, there's like a pause, and it's like probably not our guy, and like understandably, I don't even know how to pronounce it when I first got here. So like it's picking up on all the stuff that I think you need to know here, and that just takes time.
Yeah,
it takes diving into areas, and one of the things that I did that I think helped me out the most was literally going to YouTube, and I would search before a showing. I would search like. Yeah. Everything to know about Canton, everything to know about Woodstock, everything to know about Sandy Springs. And like I would literally watch 5 videos or however long it would take me to understand an area, to understand what was in that downtown, to understand what the draw of those areas were. Because I don't do, one of the things I got here, I was like, I'm not going to do just one area. I can't just afford to farm my hometown.
Right.
I'm going to work, and I literally did. I said, I'm going to work 2 hours in every direction. And so I was, I still drive out to like Athens and list properties over there. I still drive down to like Locust Grove or places like that, and just like keep trying to transact, and it was the mentality of like, why would I not do this if I don't have something else to do?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I moved here when 2009, I came here for Georgia Tech for engineering school, thought I wanted to be an engineer, like was there in that bubble. Then I moved to Buckhead after school, and then moved down to Lindbergh area. So I pretty much knew like 3 pockets. Then I got into real estate. I was like, whoa, Atlanta's such a massive market to learn. Like 2009 to now, what is that? It's like, dang, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute.
Is that 17 years?
Yes, 17 years.
Yeah.
17 years I've been in Atlanta, and I feel like I still don't know some of the neighborhoods. Like there's just so many pockets, and things are changing so fast. So
yeah.
I can only imagine just coming here and like brand new big city.
It's a lot to catch up on. And I mean, I would say I definitely know areas, I would say outside the perimeter a lot better. But you gotta get accustomed to everything. So it's just like diving in as much as you can. And I'm not gonna say no to something because I'm not 100% familiar with it. Learning an area is not, an excuse to not transact there. It's you got to learn it at some point, or you're never going to do business there. So I don't want to like shy away from that.
Yeah.
And no shade on Miami, a little bit of shade on Miami, but
what are they like stuck up or something? Or
I think that it's just like culturally being in Miami for so long, you get used to the fact that there's a lot more hot bloodedness in Miami, and like it's one of those things that there's not. You don't have Southern charm in Miami. You don't have like kind of those like even like the bless your heart or like any of that stuff. Like even if maybe you're not like somebody's biggest fan here, you're not gonna like outwardly just put that out there and be like very direct about it. You're gonna like deal with that person. And I always say like in Miami, people are I think more direct with you, which and sometimes is good because you don't ever get people beating around the bush. Like they're gonna, if they don't like you, they're gonna know. Transacting with agents in Miami, I do think there's more ego. I think there's a little more like it becomes more personal between the agents. Whereas here I find that it's a lot easier to say like, hey, we are on the same team. Like, let's get this to the closing table. And I do think that that's one of the reasons I was able to transact a lot more here is because people are more friendly here. And it's a cultural thing, right? It's everywhere is different. I kind of relate Miami almost to like a New York City in the sense that like over there, it's not like, it's like, it's not the easiest place to kind of make it and get around. And I do think that if you can make it in some of these more crazy places like Miami and New York City, you come to Georgia, and I'm not saying it's easy here, but I do think that you kind of have like a little bit of, a little bit of a edge on you at that point where you're able to kind of move a little faster into this market. I want to say I would love to say like, hey, I got here and I was like a better agent, but I do think that I brought with me the kind of that drive, and I do think speaking Spanish to an extent helps as well. So yeah.
So let's play catch up then. You came here, obviously you're part of Method. You're starting to like get results, follow up on leads. How long did it take you to kind of get comfortable as an agent here in Atlanta?
This is a good question. Comfortable, I guess, like in terms of feeling like I could speak on Atlanta with authority or confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I think I started trying to within the first maybe 6 months. Before I felt like I was truly speaking from like a voice of knowledge, probably I would say about 2 years.
Okay.
And obviously gradual over time, and I'd have to go back and like really see what my mind looked like at the time. But I think I strongly believe in fake it till you make it. Like you're never gonna convince somebody that you're well versed on something if you don't truly believe that yourself, and that's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You got to like build from somewhere. So I think I would say yeah, like 2 years probably. Being here, I knew areas I could get around without GPS. You get familiar with like main highways,
Mm-hmm.
and you could start giving. I think like once you're able to start giving other people directions, it's a good feeling. Yeah.
And at what point did you feel confident enough to like, okay, now I want to be a leader. I'm starting a team. I want to give back to agents. Like, walk me through that mindset.
I'd love to say so the structure of our brokerage is a little bit different, and I'd love to say like I was like, oh, I'm going to start a team.
Yeah.
It wasn't the case. In this case, it was more of like I was told that I need to start a team almost. When I got to Method, I was there for about 5-6 months before I started talking to Andrew, our operating broker, about being more involved within the company. And I asked him what that could look like because I am very passionate about my brokerage. I've been with probably 5 or 6 different brokerages at this point, maybe a few less. I don't know the exact number, but I've never encountered anything like Method, and I did feel it was really special. The culture there is super special, and so I wanted to give back, and I was like, how can I do that in like a tangible way?
Right.
And he said we don't have a mentorship program, and I had been mentoring an agent in Miami before I left, and he said, do you have any experience with it? I said, yeah. It turned out to be something completely different. I literally built out basically an entire mentorship program instead of just mentoring agents, to where we could take an agent from not knowing anything about real estate, coming in brand new, getting them to the point where a lot of the time before they even left the class, they had something under contract, or they were transacting, or they felt a lot more confident transacting. And I made sure that we went over everything in that class. We went over how to use the MLS, how to talk to people over the phone, using tonality, body language, like how to go on a listing presentation, how to negotiate contracts, and everything in between, inspections. And so building that out, and I ended up teaching it for about 2 years. Eventually there became a point where they were kind of like, I think it's time that you make a team. And our teams are structured differently at Method, where we kind of, yes, we're team leads, like, a team lead would lead a team, but we're more of like resources for our agents.
I see.
Where there's
almost like a sponsorship.
Kind of, yeah, kind of. And so, we build these teams, and then our official broker is up until recently was somebody else. But the team leads act as kind of the representation of the brokerage, where instead of going to one person for that help or whatever,
Gotcha.
we have 6 different team leads at Method, where realistically any agent can go to any of them, but you're responsible for your team in that kind of way. We kind of, in a sense, work for our team. Yeah.
Back in 2020, 21, the market was like super hot because of COVID. And Lexi and I, my wife, we were at the point where we're ready to start a team. We're ready to take on new agents. We grew within 1 year to 10 agents. All of them were new.
It's a different animal.
It's a different animal. It was tough, right? Because you're teaching them all the basics, but there's also so much turnover. Do you ever, and within like 2 years, we were basically like, this is not for us. Like we're like babysitting agents, like we don't want to have these types of conversations. And they were all great. I mean, shout out to all of them. They're rock stars. But like at that time, real estate was so hot, everybody wanted to be in it. But then like once you do 1-2 transactions as a new agent, it's like, what they say, 80% of agents quit after like 2 years. So how do you handle that like turnover, and how do you mentor an agent so they don't quit?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's a question I think we all still try to figure out to the best extent, because understanding people in general is very tough,
Mm-hmm.
and understanding why one agent's going to be successful over another is very difficult too. I could sit there, and we've interviewed so many agents, and you can interview an agent that comes there and says to your face and looks you in the eye and says, I'm going to not stop making calls until I am as successful as you.
Yeah.
And I would bring in kids that were, 18, 19 years old, and they told me that, and I was like, yes, like I want somebody like me that has drive. And then they do it for a little bit, and then they flounder out, and they give up. And those cases exist so often, and everybody shows up to the interview table saying and believing they're going to work really hard.
Mm-hmm.
The reality of the situation, and I'd rather at this point scare people off than to kind of like take it easy. Is I am bluntly honest with them that I'm like, what it takes to get from where you're at to now is going to be an extremely, extremely work heavy task for you. You are going to have to figure out what is your way of generating leads. I can offer you my way.
Yeah.
And I can support you in that. But if you're not willing to do what I tell you and to do it consistently, you're going to need to figure out a way to survive and thrive in this market. And so, I absolutely have scared off agents with that, but the agents that, listen and say, yeah, I'm going to do that. I tell them, I said, I'm going to hold you accountable. We meet every Monday. And I say, if you're not doing what you told me you're going to do, you don't necessarily have a place on this team.
Yeah.
And I don't just like kick people off for nothing. But if somebody comes to me and they're like, oh, JC, I'm not where I need to be. I'm like, well, are you doing what you told me you're going to do? Are you putting effort in consistently day in, day out? Or are you just sitting around waiting for somebody to hand you a lead, and you get frustrated because real estate's not as easy as you saw on social media. Real estate's not as easy as you saw on Selling Sunset or something like that, That's the fact of the matter, is that people often don't realize what this career entails, until they're actually in it. And it's not really, you don't make money by showing houses. Like, you make money by talking to people. That's the hardest part of this job is connecting with enough people to generate that business.
Right.
Showing houses is the reward to your job, technically.
That's the fun part.
Yeah,
you're running a business.
Yeah, you can't be like,
stuff.
I'm so busy because I'm showing houses. No, you're enjoying it. You're eating your dessert at that point. Like, that's not working. That's the kind of downhill coast part. But yeah, I mean, I would say being bluntly honest with agents these days, and like really telling them what it's going to take, and then just showing up day in, day out for them. And the ones that I know want to do it, like I have an agent right now, he's absolutely killing it. He started in December. Shout out Matt. He makes calls like the way that I would make calls, and like I can see like the hunger and like the desire, like. People like that aren't going to stop until they hit the numbers they want to hit. And so when you see that, you want to give them like as many resources as possible to succeed. When you see the people that are stepping up to make it happen and carving their own paths, there's I have an agent, Bria, that she only does TikTok, and it was a really hard uphill, start for her, because another thing that takes so much time to get up. And now she has, I think, 3 or 4 under contracts just from leads she got off TikTok.
Amazing.
And I'm so impressed by that. Like, I couldn't build that out myself, but to see somebody else do that and stick with it and like work really hard towards that is so impressive.
Yeah. Let's actually dive into that, some of those tactics and kind of what made you successful and go through some hard times and the things that you preach to new agents. What do you think is the number one way to like lead generate?
I personally believe that it's phone calls. And I mean, it's archaic, and it's something that I remember going to like Tom Ferry events and like Mike Ferry events, and they'd be like, you got to pick up the phone and make calls.
Yeah.
And my mentor is amazing at a lot of things. He was so reluctant to make calls, and so I thought it wasn't necessary. He was big on getting people to come to you. And I believe there's a happy medium where you can do both, and that's what in Miami. I created a website just for my community. I blasted it out. I paid money to get it on Google and everything, and that did a really good job. But I wasn't thinking, okay, I'm just going to leave it up to people finding me. I was like, I'm going to call my whole community. I'm going to get their email addresses. I'm going to send them email blast every single Wednesday, which is Ricky Caruth. And I was huge on that, and I still very much believe in that method. So I think that you have to call people, or you have to talk to people, like in person, wherever it is. Mine was calling, because I found that I could do it really quickly and talk to as many people as I possibly could. people are reluctant to do it because they are scared of the rejection of a cold call.
Right.
They're scared of somebody saying, well, I don't want to work with you,
Mhm.
or I don't want to have this phone call. Or hang up on you. And really, there's not much they can do besides that. But a lot of the times, people I think often don't realize, like, you're going to have to talk to somebody on the phone, whether you send out postcards, whether they come to your website, like all of these things, like you're going to talk to that person on the phone. Like, just do it. Just have it be on your terms, make that call, build that rapport. I find that oftentimes the people that want to work with you based on those phone calls respect your hustle. They respect the fact that you checked in with them 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
I've had clients that, hated the fact that I called them, and they were like, you can't help me. I have something super specialized that I want to do. And I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to check in with you in a month today. And I'd keep doing it, and they'd be bothered. And then eventually you find some way to build rapport with them. I remember there's this client that we bonded over bread. She baked bread. And I was like, oh my God, that's so interesting. Tell me more. And I was like, my sister's into that. And so it became this thing where she literally, at the end of that call, she's talking to me an hour about baking bread. You know what? Why don't you come to my house? I'm thinking about selling, and I'm going to make you some bread.
That's awesome.
She is like my grandmother. I literally talked to her this morning already, and I would do anything for this lady. And like, she's like family for me.
That's awesome.
And so, it's just one of those things where I am such a huge advocate of making calls, and beyond just making calls is you have to do it consistently.
Right.
You have to operate it like you are operating a business, where you look at the KPIs and you're like, okay, how many calls does it take for me to get to somebody that answers the phone? How many answers does it take for me to get to somebody that wants to go look at property? How many of those does it take to get to a person that's going to go under contract? And you can literally reverse engineer that and figure out how to set up your business for the entire year if you need to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like, real estate, I think attracts, and I'm by nature this way, very ADD, where it's like, I don't want to have structure. Like, sometimes you're like, I don't want my calendar to like show every single thing that I have to do throughout the day. So it's like fighting that nature and like building in that structure and trying to keep your calendar like really well planned, I think is another huge point.
I think it's a lot of agents are scatterbrain, right? They're like trying to do too many methods of lead generation. I love the fact that, like, I mean, your number one, I'd say, is cold calling for sure. It's like, that's like a staple. But it's interesting, like, you don't have to necessarily do that. As long as you go deep in however you need to communicate and reach out to people, you could door knock. You could start a TikTok. It's just different ways of reaching out. You could do a newsletter. You could literally send mail.
Yeah.
It's try not to do all these multiple things. Just pick one and just go super deep.
Absolutely.
And that's how you get in front of people and, work from there.
I would say you can do, and I tell my agents this literally almost every single Monday, because I find that my team is it's so different. All of my agents do different things. Like, I have an agent, Sam, who was my first agent on my team, that she is more ADD than me, but it works to her strengths, where she literally has like 15 different sources of getting business.
Yeah.
And it's strange because most people wouldn't be able to juggle all that, but I find her brain just works that way. So she'll meet somebody in a store, or she'll make like a couple calls and get a client. She has a staging business where she'll literally meet people through staging and then sell their house, and like has all these different ways that she does stuff, and it works for her. But it works for her because of the same thing that works for the person that makes calls, or the person that posts on TikTok and successful, which is consistency.
Yeah.
And she does all of these things consistently, and she doesn't stop doing the ones that she's finding are working. And so you're right. You can make calls, you can post on TikTok, you can, go door knock, or just meet people in a grocery store. The most important part is that you do it consistently, is that you track that, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make an effort to do this. You don't just do it when you're motivated to do it.
Yeah. What do you do consistently on a day-to-day? Like, what are your daily habits like?
So consistently, I still do client outreach. I don't do nearly as much cold calling as I used to, but I have, from when I was cold calling, like a huge list, and I can still check and see, we have Follow Up Boss. So I can see who's on our website, who's looking at properties, what they've been looking at. And so I check in with those people. I'm consistent in like making sure that they're taken care of. I want to consistently meet 5 new people every single day. And I learned that from coaching last year, is that, I want to get their name. I want to find 5 new people. And because like we talked about before with rentals, you don't know where any sort of relationship is going to bring you. Do I meet 5 every single day? No, but I like to at least 3, and really hold myself to that number. Beyond that, I check in with my team daily, just kind of go to all the agents and make sure that they're taken care of, whatever they have going on. I know what they have going on, that we're kind of behind their deals. What else? I plan on my calendar, obviously, because it's really hard to do anything without that these days. I remember, for the longest time, and it was like really easy to kind of like shoot from the hip, and you're like, okay, whatever, I'm going to do this and this today. But I find that helps with consistency as well, is just having everything completely planned out. I'm trying to remember what else I do consistently. I'm sure there's other stuff, but and I try to post at least 4 to 5 times a week. I need to be more consistent with that. I used to better. But I also do post with my company, so I find that a lot of my ideas and like media sometimes ends up going on there instead.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get back to doing a lot more creative stuff and like getting my name out there through my own stuff.
You mentioned Follow Up Boss. We use it too.
Follow Up Boss,
we love it. 100% like game changer.
It is a game changer.
Tell agents out about the importance of a CRM.
Oh my God. So I had Follow Up Boss in Miami, but I find that it's one of those tools that if you don't, like any tool, right? If you don't know how to use it, what good is a screwdriver if you don't know what its function is? And so having Follow Up Boss is very important. Knowing what to do with it and how to use it is like, I think bounds and leaps more important. My biggest thing with Follow Up Boss is setting tasks. And so every single, when I got to Method, they made a big emphasis on that every single client should have a task associated with any given time. And that when you check your daily tasks, you go through those. You don't just check them off and you're like, oh, I looked at them. You call those people, especially if you're claiming leads. That's our SOP. So I would go through my tasks every single day. If I had 50 tasks, I'm going to call 50 people. If I only had 5 today, awesome. And then there's an overdue area that needs to be at 0 all the time. I try to leave nothing on my plate at the end of the day. Like everything needs to be taken off, and just making sure that if I'm checking off a task, I'm adding a new one. If I talk to someone today, I'm setting another one for a week later, a month later, whatever it needs to be. If they didn't pick up, I'm calling it again tomorrow. So for me, Follow Up Boss was a huge tool in terms of making sure I stayed consistent with following up with tasks. And it's a great way to stay on top of your clients, what they're doing. Ours is syndicated with our website, so we can see their activity. We can see when they're going on there, checking stuff.
Nice.
That's the best thing about Follow Up Boss is there's so many little like add-ons and tools you can kind of use for. But I would say Follow Up Boss probably made me 50% more successful in what I do, just because I had a really good organized CRM.
100%. And it saves a ton of time. Like other than everything mentioned, our biggest thing is like just templates, just templating out the entire process and the client experience, so that, at the end of the day, it is a very similar, step working with a buyer and a seller, some of the same conversations, instead of trying to write it from scratch, like at least get 90% there with a template and polish it up.
And with the AI tools they have now to like actually write text or write emails and stuff, it analyzes your previous conversations and it summarizes them. When I started with Follow Up Boss, it didn't have that. So seeing that now and how easy it is to know what your last conversation was, we used to have to like take notes on it. Now you can literally just see exactly what you talked about.
Yeah.
So cool.
The biggest thing too is just like separating work from personal. It's a whole separate number, separate app. So like those texts and all that flows through a separate channel.
Just having it on there where this stuff is not getting lost in the ether at the end of the day. Yeah, for sure.
100%. Take me through the client experience. You mentioned something recently where, okay, I'm not cold calling anymore. It sounds like you're getting a lot of referrals. You're doing a great job. You've obviously been in the business for a while. Like, if I'm a client, take me through the JC Vina experience.
Well, nowadays, generally you're not getting outreach directly from me from the get-go. You're probably being referred to me by someone. If you're a buyer, obviously, I love to just have a conversation, find out what their motivations are. And based on those motivations and what their goals are, just tailoring their experience exactly to what they need.
Yeah.
There's people out there that aren't going to be coming to Atlanta until literally once they've already bought the house, and making sure that along the way, They know every single thing that they need to know about that area if they're not familiar with it. That, I've sent them videos of every single inch of a house that they're interested in. If they are physically here and they're here for a weekend, you have my weekend. I don't care, what day and time it is. If I can carve that time out, it's theirs. And we'll take literally, the entire day from sun up to sundown, if that's what it takes for them to feel familiar with an area, feel familiar with, specific houses that they're really interested in. Beyond, I think, all of that, I'm really huge on just treating every single client like, they're a friend. And that this is just an experience where, hey, we get to go look at houses like friends together, if you're with a buddy or something. And I'm really big on like, and I think it comes from experience and not like really having any nerves or like anything like that. But like, I want to look at that house the same way they want to look at it, and kind of like experience it the same way almost, and just be there with them. And I'm not just information dumping on them. I'm their resource for when they have all this. I know them. But I don't need to just consistently be going through a house and being like, well, that's wrong. That's not up to code, like this, like that. Like, no reason to absolutely kill somebody's love for a house before they even figure out if they like it. I want them to kind of have their own thought first. So when it comes to buyers, definitely helping them feel like, hey, it's just us friends looking at houses. Obviously, the professional level is there and will continue to be there, especially as we get further the process and start making offers and what that looks like.
But it's based on trust. Like,
But
it
it's
sounds
absolutely,
like you're like building trust. You're like treating them like a friend, but also being professional, which is good. Yeah.
I find it's a combination of rapport and also just, when you do know the process at a certain, I think, level, it just becomes like a lot more comfortable. And I think for clients, they can kind of see and understand that you know what you're doing. They can kind of just let their trust like sit with you and not really have to worry about that.
Is there anything like you think you do differently for either buyers or sellers compared to other agents, like client appreciation events or anything like out of the ordinary?
I mean, I do drop off gifts like at random to my clients. So, clients that I would have closed a year or two ago, like I'll just pop up and have like a little client appreciation gift or a bottle of wine. I like to make it where it's like almost like a spouse, right? Like, it's not like, you give it to them on Valentine's Day or the day they close. It's like, hey, here's something just because, and letting them, kind of feel like really special and important.
That's the best way to give a gift. Like, don't wait till the holiday.
Yeah.
Like, give it to them when they're not expecting.
Exactly.
It means
it's
so
more
much more
special. Yeah. So I really like doing that. I love just following up with clients and either at random or, hey, it's the anniversary of the year that you've owned the home. Like, just want to see how everything's going. Because I'm huge on checking back in with those clients. And I didn't for a long time. And I really missed those opportunities. I think the statistic of people that use their realtor a second time around is like embarrassingly low. I want to say it's like 25%, 30%. So like, there's all these opportunities where these clients are not going to use the agent they used before. They may even really like that agent, forgot about them, met somebody else that's in the industry. If you don't continue that relationship built on all of this trust and like all this rapport and like they were there for me all the time, and all of a sudden we close and they're gone. And I just don't love that. So being the type of agent that, is always around and checking in and just making sure that, hey, is there a house? Do you guys, is there anything you're running into that you need a handyman or a contractor or a cleaner or anything like that for? Making sure that I'm, available for that. And I think lastly, like going through a transaction, I really don't, and I think this is a privilege of where I'm at in my career, but there's zero pressure comes to a client buying. I've shown clients, 50 homes and they tell me, hey, we're going to want to wait a year. You're never going to get like any sort of attitude from me. You're never going to get like any sort of like, oh, no, maybe you should like, think about it. I'm like, hey, that's fine. Like, let me know when you're ready. I'm more than happy to continue this. If you need anything in the meantime, I'm here for you guys.
Right.
I'm happy to do it. So like kind of like a lack of commission breath. I really don't mind if somebody doesn't buy a house. For me, it's still an excuse to go look at nice houses. I'll probably get videos of a lot of those houses and post them on social media and get more clients through it. So there's still so many reasons to do it and not worry about the commission. You know, one of my little um, superstitions is I don't count a commission. Literally, don't even know what the commission amount is. Like, I mean, obviously you can like throw it in your head, but I'm never like calculating it to be like, okay, I'm gonna make this much on this deal. Like, literally, once I get the CD, I'm like, okay, that's my commission, awesome. But like, I don't look at it before then because it doesn't trust until you're actually closing.
And the trick is, it's like, the truth is you end up closing more because of it, because they'll come back around, they have referrals for you. Like, once you have commission breath, it's like,
that's it.
Then it puts you in the other salespeople, and they're like, you know, if they're not ready or they're feeling the pressure, you know, it's so much better to just be like laid back, like, I'm here when you're ready, and you'll end up closing more because of it.
It's hard to teach it because obviously as newer agents, they need to get it. You know, they have to get into a place where they feel enough to not have commission breath. But there's nothing more off-putting than that commission breath and you know, having an agent be like, you know, like nudging you and like them in their head, that agent being like, oh no, I don't want to push him, but then still pushing them without realizing they're pushing them. It's tough. It's tough for newer agents. But yeah, trying not to do that is definitely important.
So what's next for JC? What's the next 1 to 3 years look like? What do you got? What are you excited about these days?
So I'm taking a huge focus on just helping our brokerage in general grow. We started this year with the team leads sitting down for like a 2-day conference and we just figuring out exactly what we want to do to help put our brokerage out there in the best way possible, to attract both new agents where we can help them with the mentorship program, but also like, you know, talent that's been out there. We have like 40 different projects that we're working on that we need to get done by the end of the year, where, you know, over the course of this year, as people look at Method, they're going to see things start to come into fruition. So I have myself 8, I think, that I'm working on that I'm going to be just putting out and like really focusing on that. Last year I was, you know, admittedly very focused on volume and like really trying to get that as high as possible. Obviously it's making money is the name of the game. I want to get some really great agents on the team that I can help out and kind of give my my experience to. So for me, that's, you know, the next year, 2 years down the road. And eventually continuing to grow that out. I have the market in Miami already. I do want to continue to fortify that as well, build into that, add more agents to that market, 9 really good agents, but I do want to continue to find people down there that can add on to his team and help him grow as well.
Yeah. That's exciting, man. Sounds like you got a lot going on. And I think, you know, one of the things was such a rush through COVID. And now with the rates being high for so long, there's a lot of, you know, just economic uncertainty. I feel like a lot of agents are quitting and like during that, you know, and numbers are down, but it's such a great time to like build. It's such a great time to like meet with your back. The super cool thing is like once you're an agent in year like 4 or 5, then it's like all the buyers you worked with in the beginning are becoming sellers and then they need to buy something else and move and like you're just getting referrals. So if you can just make it to that point.
You just got to make it to when people want to sell again and then you're going to be in that market. I mean, the cycle is consistent and you can expect that and bank on it, that if you put that work in now, you're going to get the return later down the road.
Well, JC, I want to hit you with one last question.
Yes.
This is the Atlanta Agent Playbook, and we're collecting the plays of all the top producing agents. And what's the one play that you want to add to our playbook?
Has consistency been added already?
Consistency? No, I don't think so.
Okay. So consistency is the name of the game, right? We talked about this earlier. No matter what you do, whatever your play is going to be, you know, for me, it's calling, right? But you need to do it consistently. You can't do it, you know, one day, okay, I'm going to take a break today. You know, you don't feel good today. You're not going to do it. It's the weekend. You need to be consistent with whatever type of marketing, whatever type of outreach that you're going to be doing. You can't send a postcard 1 time, 2 times, and then be like, well, I didn't get any clients. You know, everything works. Every type of outreach, every type of way of generating business that we've heard over the last, you know, 30 years from like experts, they work. People want to chalk it up to, oh, it just doesn't work for me. No, it will. But you have to have the consistency and kind of the faith that with that consistency over time, you're going to see the results, but you have to continue to dig into it and not just give up because, hey, it hasn't worked in the last week or the last month.
Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks so much for being on.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to continuing to follow your journey as you build your team.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, JC.
Take care.